All right, UFC Fight Night, Strickland versus Magomedov, back from the UFC Apex this Saturday night. It's a fight where the winner of this fight, honestly, could definitely be next in line for a title eliminator against maybe the likes of Jared Cannonier. I know that would be a rematch for Sean Strickland, but it would be a fight that could potentially happen up next. Strickland and Magomedov, though, gets the main event July 1st. From the UFC Apex. And again, if you are back here with the channel, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Normally, again, we do videos with graphics on the screen, and I'll just talk through it. Trying something new for last week's video with Emmett and Topuria from Jacksonville, and then this card with Strickland and Magomedov. I'm just going to be talking through it with me on the screen as well. Again, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I saw a lot of you like the original format better, which is fine. 100% I'm cool with that. So we probably will go back to that next week, but for now, we're going to continue with this format, or maybe I'll try something else different next week with some of the old format and some of the new format involved as well. So let's do it now. Strickland and Magomedov this weekend. This video is going to be a lot of me trying not to do too many cuts, just going to go straight through it. Let's get it going. Our first fight here on this card, it will be Kutateladze taking on his opponent, Elvis Brener. So for Kutateladze, or Guram Kutateladze, his last fight, losing to Damir Ismagulov, that was, I believe, in San Antonio, or no, it was in Austin. It was like on that Cater Emmett card. He loses it by split decision to Ismagulov, and Ismagulov does get him in that fight. And for Kutateladze, his first fight in the promotion, it is a win over Mateusz Gamrot. And again, for Guram, we haven't seen him all that often. You look at the fights that he's been scheduled, and again, he beats Gamrot in his first fight in the UFC. It's a fight that a lot of people didn't think he won, even though a lot of people thought he beat Ismagulov. I mean, I think that was probably one of the poorer decisions of 2020 on that Ortega Zombie card. Gamrot loses a fight where, if you look at this, again, I know stats don't show everything, but really, you go back, you rewatch that fight, that's Gamrot rounds 1 and 3, Guram gets round 2. The scorecards were bad on that one. Even Guram thought that Mateusz Gamrot won that fight. It was a fight between two guys who were making their UFC debut. But then after that, for Kutateladze, he's booked against Don Madge, the PFL zone now. I don't even know if Madge is no longer with the PFL. But he doesn't have the fight against Madge, gets his Magulov, loses by split decision, then gets booked against Thiago Moises. Fight gets canceled. And Jimmy Molarkey fight gets canceled. Now here we are against Elvis Brener. And for Brener, I mean, he is a huge underdog in this fight for a reason. I know he didn't win his first fight in the UFC over Zubair Tukhugov. He wins it by split decision in Australia on that Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski card. It's a close fight. It's a split decision win for Elvis Brener. I mean, I'm not mad at the decision. You look at it again, rounds 1 and 3 likely go to Brener. Round 2 goes to Tukhugov. You can make the case for round 3 as well for Tukhugov. Honestly, though, with the wrestling, it's just with the ground control time for Tukhugov in that fight. Brener barely gets the split decision victory. I believe he was an underdog going into that fight. Yeah, he was a heavy underdog going into that one. And now he will be another heavy underdog against the Viking in Guram Kutateladze. As we look at the odds here for this fight, Guram minus 550. I mean, that's what we kind of expect for this one. Minus 550 for Guram, plus 400 for Elvis Brener. You look at Tapology, I'm assuming Guram is a huge favorite as well. At 96% of people going with Guram to win this fight. Some by knockout, some by decision. Again, Guram yet with the finish so far in the UFC. Outside the promotion, he's got 7 knockout wins. We have not seen it just yet in the UFC as well. I'm not actually going to open up another tab so I can make my picks on another tab. But for this fight, I'm going to go with the favorite. I'm going to go with Guram to pick up the victory here. I think, again, all around he's better than Elvis Brener. I think his striking's better than Brener. I think he's got more power than Brener. Again, it depends on what Guram we do see, considering, again, we haven't seen him in a minute. It's been a year. He's dealt with some injuries. But I think Guram comes in here. I think he picks up the victory. He's only 31 years old. Give me Guram Kutateladze to win this fight by second round knockout. On to our next fight in the heavyweight division. We've got a guy here in Alexander Romanov who at one point had a crap ton of hype, and I don't know if this is the exact order of this card because Romanov and Blagoy being the second fight of the card is crazy, and Guram opening up the card is crazy when you got, I mean, in all fairness, Drew Anderson Brito taking on Weston Wilson, and then Ivana Petrovic taking on Luana Carolina after. It's a really good card, actually, this Saturday. It's a really good card. It's a shame it's in the Apex because, again, as we saw in Jacksonville, if the UFC is able to sell out the ViStar Memorial, Veterans Memorial Arena with 15,000 people on a Saturday afternoon to watch Josh Emmett fight and a Georgian fighter in Ilia Topuria fight, they can sell out any arena in the country. People just want to watch fights. You put Sean Strickland and Abus Magomedov in, I don't know, when's this card going to take place? At 1 p.m.? Okay, you put him at 1 p.m. in, I don't know, Nashville. Oh wait, they were doing card Nashville. You put them in Louisville, Kentucky. It's probably gonna sell an arena for at least 9,000 people. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're still in the Apex, and I'm just gonna do my quick rant right now. You look at this. Why are all these cards still in the Apex? I mean, next week, T-Mobile Arena, but then we got Home Bueno Silva in the Apex. Okay, sure, I get it's in the Apex, but let's be honest with ourselves, guys. You put that fight in, I don't know, you put that fight in like Birmingham, Alabama or somewhere. I don't know. You put it somewhere, it's going to sell tickets. It's going to move tickets. Yeah, Aspinall Tabura is in the O2. This is in Utah. They're getting Santagan and Magomedov in Nashville, Tennessee. Luque and Dos Santos. You're telling me you couldn't put that fight in Brazil and you couldn't sell tickets? Come on. Sterling O'Malley, TD Garden, Boston, and then you got Singapore, Paris. I mean, it looks like the Apex is slowly on the way up, but I don't know. September, there's an Apex card. October, another Apex card, and then another one in November. They need to do away with the UFC Apex. It is horrible. Anyways, Blagoy Ivanov, Alexander Romanov here. Interesting fight, because, I mean, you remember at one point in time, look at the hype Romanov had. Now he's lost 2 in a row, and he hasn't looked great in these last 2 fights. I know the Marcin Tybura fight, the first round of that Tybura fight, we were thinking, okay, it's Romanov. He's going to do his thing. I mean, he outstrikes Tybura 14-0. He's got 4 minutes of control time. It's all Alexander Romanov in that fight against Marcin Tybura in the first round. The second round, though, Tybura turns it around. The third round, Tybura turns it around as well. I thought it honestly should have been a draw. I was with Derek clearly on the scorecards, but they give the win to Tybura. I'm not against it. And then Romanov's next fight, really just weird. They give him Alexander Volkov, and it's just like, why? He was a favorite in the Volkov fight, but Volkov's good, and Drago goes in there and knocks him out in the first round or finishes him in the first round. He'll now get a guy here in Blagoy Ivanov who's 19-5 professionally. He's coming off a loss in his last fight against Marcin Tybura where he loses it by decision. This is a fight earlier this year. Blagoy, again, hasn't fought, wasn't that active since, I guess, his main event, honestly, against Junior Dos Santos. Actually, no, not against Junior Santos. After, basically COVID started after the Gusto Sakai fight. He waits 2 years. He beats De Lima by decision. Then he runs into Marcin Tybura on that Lewis and Spivak card, and he loses to him by decision. Tybura, again, with a huge third round and a huge third round of controlled time, gives Marcin Tybura the win. He wins rounds 1 and 3. I got it 2-1 Tybura. I guess a judge scored the third or the second for Tybura as well, which I don't really understand. But anyways, again, Blagoy loses that fight. This fight's really dependent on if Blagoy can keep this fight on the feet, because no matter what, you don't want to be on the ground with Alexander Romanov. And what we have seen out of Romanov is that the guy, he struggles with his cardio. He struggles late in fights. He struggles really once the fight gets out of the first round. But even with that, as we saw in the Juan Espino fight, even in a fight that he won, but even in the Volkov fight, man, Romanov couldn't get anything going. He couldn't take Volkov down. Volkov was able to keep the fight on the feet, and if you're able to keep the fight on the feet with Alexander Romanov, he's a sitting duck. Again, the guy, once he's on the ground, if you've seen his ground strikes, his hammer fists are just, it's crazy, the crazy power that he's able to generate down there. But if he's on the feet, Romanov is not able to do much. He does not have a good striking game. And again, if he can't get the takedown, Romanov's screwed. So this fight is completely dependent on if you think Alexander Romanov can take Blagoy Ivanov down. That's really where we look at it here. And for your odds, I don't even know if there are odds posted for this one. There are -140 for Alexander Romanov, +115 for Blagoy Ivanov. Ivanov has got to escape the first round. That's how simple it is. And for Blagoy, again, he got taken down by Tybura in the third. De Lima, I'm not sure when De Lima took him down. Didn't really have him down for long. He took him down in the third round. All around, Blagoy's takedown defense is pretty solid. I think he's going to be able to keep the fight on the feet against Romanov. I think he's able to win. I think they need to put Romanov back against guys who are outside of the top 20, and Blagoy Ivanov is still a decent fighter who's able to keep this fight on the feet, and I think Blagoy Ivanov's able to win. It's going with the underdog pick here, but I'm still not sold on Romanov. I think, again, as long as Ivanov can get out the first, he's able to win this fight. I think Blagoy does do that, and I think Blagoy picks up a second-round knockout victory. So give me the underdog here in Blagoy Ivanov to score a second-round knockout win over King Kong Romanov. On to our next one. This one is a mismatch of all sorts. We have got Joe Anderson Brito taking on Weston Wilson. I saw people talking about this fight on Twitter when this was announced, I think a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I don't like the matchmaking here either. Weston Wilson's a guy who you shake your head at if he got signed to the Contender Series. That's telling right here, 0-3 in LFA. And this guy's now in the UFC. He's 34 years old, from Stafford, Virginia. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, but look at the guys he's beat. 9-19, 4-3, 8-5. This guy lost to Ishihara in XMMA in 2022. That's not good. Don't get me wrong. I like Ishihara, but come on. He's losing to Vince Morales. He's losing to Francisco Rivera. he beats Weston Wilson and he knocks him out in the first round. And I think the UFC might have signed this guy looking like, all right, well, he's won 6 out of his last 7, but who has he beat? He hasn't beat anybody. You look at his LFA run, it's bad. He loses to Bobby King. He loses a fight by Gogo Plata in the first round. I don't know where his other LFA fight was here. It's against Charles Cheeks. He loses. I believe Cheeks is in the UFC. Or no, that's not. Oh my God, it's Jose Johnson, not Charles Cheeks. Yeah, it's Jose Johnson. But yeah, no, it's just, he goes 0-3 in LFA. What are we doing here? He's a ground guy, sure. Joanderson Brito knows how to, get out of stuff on the ground as well. His last win is a submission win over Lucas Alexander in the first round. This is one-way traffic for me. It really is. I don't really need to break down any of Brito's old fights because, again, the guy's got power, as you saw in the Andre Touchy-Feely fight. He knocks him out in 41 seconds. He loses to Algio. Okay, that's his first fight in the promotion, but he beats Feely. He beats Lucas Alexander, both first-round finishes. What is he going to do to Weston Wilson? He's likely going to finish him in the first round. It's just a matter of, do you want submission? Do you want knockout? I'm going to take knockout for Joanderson Brito in the first round. Again, I think we're going to see a lot of finishes early on this card, but for good reason. This is just this is going to be one-way traffic for Brito. Because, what does Weston Wilson offer? He hasn't beaten anybody. Maybe his ground game, but Joanderson Brito, again, is a solid submission guy, solid BJJ guy. It's just, I don't see the pathway to victory here for Weston Wilson. I don't like it at all. I think it's bad matchmaking. I think it's 96% for Joanderson Brito, and then you've got, what do we got here on the odds? I don't know if there are odds yet on this. Probably not, because it should be so inflated. This is the lock in the night. Joanderson Brito is going to win this fight. He's going to get it done by first round knockout. That's what everyone's going with for good reason. First round knockout, Joanderson Brito, lock it in. Next up, Ivana Petrovic taking on Luana Carolina. Petrovic, a big favorite on Tapology. She's 6-0, coming off her last win in Aries FC for the flyweight championship over there, getting a submission win in the 4th round by her naked choke to retain her flyweight championship over there. So she's the Aries 125-pound champion. Of course, no UFC fights yet for her, and she'll be taking on Luana Carolina, who is most known for getting spinning back elbowed or fisted, I think it was elbow, by Molly McCann. And oh, by the way, Molly McCann is going to be in a co-main event coming up. What are we doing? Luana Carolina, though, versus Ivana Petrovic. For Luana Carolina, her last fight, losing a split decision fight to Joanne Wood, and we thought Joanne Wood was washed. I think she still is, let's be honest. I think she should have just gone out with that victory. Wood will be now fighting Priscilla Cachoeira in Utah in July. But for Carolina, she's lost her last 2 fights. So far in the UFC for her, she is 3-3. Came in, beat Priscilla Cachoeira, lost to Ariane Lipski, and won, I would say, honestly, one of the submissions of the year in 2020. The knee bar, it was John Anik's submission of the year. She beats Poyan Botello. She beats Lupito Godinez, probably in her best win. However, that was Godinez up a weight class. Godinez is a small 115-pounder, and Carolina beats her at 125. She loses to Molly McCann, then she loses to Joanne Wood. Luana Carolina, you saw her Joanne Wood fight. She was able to, contend with Wood back and forth on the feet. Wood mixed it up a little bit with the wrestling. It's a pretty forgettable fight, though, if we're being honest, on that Usman Edwards card. I didn't watch it live at the time, and it's not a great watch. She, gets dropped by Molly McCann. She loses. It's the fight that's Molly McCann wins. She raises up the UFC championship, which, good for her. It's just kind of weird because I remember the UFC Europe page tweeted, Molly McCann forever our champ, heart emoji. Like, what? She's not even in the top 15. Aaron Blanchfield slowed that hype train. And then before that, for Carolina, it beats Lupita Godinez, it beats Poliana Botello. Carolina's best shot at winning this fight is going to be on the feet, probably, because, again, Petrovic is a fighter who recently has shown her ground skills, but, again, is not bad on the feet either. But mostly for Ivana Petrovic, she is going to try to, ground you. She's going to try to work on you on the ground. She's going to try to get a finish down there. I think that's likely where this fight's going to end up, though. I don't think Carolina is able to keep this fight on the feet. She hasn't been taken down all that much in the UFC. Godinez took her down twice. Actually, no, her last 3 fights she has been taken down twice in each of them, but 78% takedown defense rate is what I was looking at here. Petrovic, again, 92% going with her on Tapology. She's 6-0, undefeated. You look at the odds on Tapology, or not the odds, but you still look at the predictions. Again, a lot of people going Petrovic by submission. You look on the actual odds. You've got her at -225. You got Carolina at +185. I think Petrovic goes in here. I think she gets a finish. I'm going to go submission in the first round for her. I think it's really going to be a dominant performance. I don't think Carolina's able really to contend on the ground. And, that's all really Ivana Petrovic does. She wants fights in the ground. down. She's able to grapple. She's able to take fighters down. She's able to really work on them down there. I think it's a clear pick here for Ivana Petrovic. Again, I'm going to go with her to win her UFC debut. I think she'll get it done by first round submission. Our next fight, Yana Santos taking on Carol Rosa. For Yana Santos, coming off her loss to Holly Holm in a co-main event, and for her opponent here in Carol Rosa, 16-5. Her last fight was a loss to Norma Dumont earlier this year. So two fighters trying to fight things out here in the women's bantamweight division. This was originally supposed to be Yana Santos versus Macy Chasson. It is now Rosa instead. For Rosa, 2-2 in her last four. Her last fight, losing to Norma Dumont. Before that, she beats Lena Landsberg by majority decision, but everyone's basically beating Lena Landsberg in this point in time. Dropped a fight before that to Sarah McMahon, who Sarah McMahon's in Bellator now, right? Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure. Just, PFL, Bellator, whatever. It's not the same thing, but still. Beats Betch Correa before that, beats Jocelyn Edwards, beats Vanessa Mello. She'll be taking on Yana Santos here, who is 0-2 in her last two fights, given only one fight since the pregnancy. She lost to Holly Holm by unanimous decision. It's a fight that Holm, again, has shown that, wrestler Holly Holm at this point of her career. We will see what Holm does next. I think the next fight at 135 pounds for the World Championship should likely be Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington. I would not be mad at a fight if Holly Holm got it instead of, honestly, Pennington, because, hate me for it. I think Juliana Pena does deserve the next title shot. I think she should get it. Former champion. She beat Amanda Nunes. I know she's not coming off a win, but still, I think Pena should be in the title shot next. Like her or hate her, I think she probably should get it next. Don't get me wrong, I think Holly Holm probably beats Juliana Pena. Does Raquel Pennington, though? I think Juliana probably gets the belt back if she gets Raquel. So if you don't like Juliana Pena, I think you want Holly Holm in that fight against Pena for the World Championship, or hell, throw in Erin Blanchfield, but it looks like she'll be fighting Tyler Santos. For Santos, again, for Yana Santos, dropping the fight to Holly Holm. Before that, again, this is pre-pregnancy Santos. She loses to Irina Aldana. Aldana knocks her down in the first round, and Aldana finishes her on the ground. Santos had wins over Ketlin Vieira and Julia Stoliarenko before that. Dropped one to Aspen Ladd, the PFL zone, who missed the playoffs in the PFL. Beats Marion Renaud, beats Lena Landsberg. Has her first fight in the UFC over Chris Cyborg. Loses in the first round. Carol Rosa, Rosa, generally a good grappler. She's going to try ground fights. It's an interesting fight. You're going to see Rosa probably trying to take this fight down. You're going to see Santos trying to keep this fight on the feet. Because, again, that's where Santos excels. It's an interesting fight. I don't think it's going to be the same, type of fight as Yana Santos, Ketlin Vieira, or Yana Santos, Julia Stoliarenko. Rosa's the favorite, and I think she should be. I don't really know what we're going to get still out of post-pregnancy Yana Santos. She looked a little slow in the Holly Holm fight. Holly Holm kind of beat her to the punch every single time, or beat her to each grappling exchange. I think if Carol Rosa was able to do the exact same, Rosa was able to have a lot of success in this fight. Rosa's coming into this fight as a minus 165 favorite for Yana Santos. She's at plus 135, which I understand, again, because I think, Santos didn't look great in the home fight for Carol Rosa. Yes, she lost her last fight to Norma Dumont. But again, I believe, that was at 45, right? Yeah, that was at 145. Santos now, Rosa now going back. Oh, this is at 145. Whoops. Oh, okay. Well, I did not think this fight was going to be at 145 pounds, considering the weight class is dead. There's no champion. Okay, this fight doesn't mean anything because, again, unless the UFC is creating a 145-pound division, which would include, I guess, Yana Santos, Carol Rosa, Norma Dumont, Chelsea Chandler, Danielle Wolf. What are we doing? That can't be a weight class. Dana basically said 145 is dead. Why is this going to be a fight? Why are we still keeping the division around? Whatever. This fight doesn't mean anything. Carol Rosa is able to win. But the thing is, again, if you are trying to keep a 145-pound weight division, Norma Dumont is Norma Dumont already beat Carol Rosa. Her last fight, she beats Rosa, and before that, she beats Danielle Wolf. So Norma Dumont should probably be the champion. If the UFC does keep the 145-pound division, it would be her versus Josiane Nunez for the belt, which, what are we doing at this point? Chris Cyborg doesn't fight anymore. I don't know if she's ever going to fight in Bellator again. I think she is. Zingano just beat Leah McCourt, so this should be the next fight. But honestly, Bellator's got the better 145-pound division. Arlene Blenco's lost her last two. Tapology still has her at 4. Shanique Kavanaugh is she's supposed to fight Sarah Collins next. I don't know what we're doing here. It's odd. Julia Budd's in Bellator, or not in Bellator, she's in PFL. Felicia Spencer retired a long time ago. Larissa Pacheco's good, but she's stuck in the PFL. Anyways, this fight doesn't matter. I didn't think it was at 145. If it was at 35, this fight does matter somewhat. It's at 145. Carol Hosa is going to win. Let's just move on. She's going to win it by decision. I think she's able to out-grapple Santos, and I think that's really what's able to happen here. So Hosa wins. Let's move on. Our next fight will be, Kevin Lee's back, taking on Fakhretdinov in this fight. Good Lord, tough fight for Kevin Lee in his return to the UFC. I mean, they re-signed him. Yes, he's coming off that big win over Diego Sanchez at 165 pounds. Remember when, Eagle FC, and by the way, what happened to Eagle FC? I mean, this is a promotion, again, who had a lot of hype at one point in time. Khabib Nurmagomedov's running it. He's backing it. Hell, I even made a video based on this card, Eagle FC 46. Is at 165 pounds. Kevin Lee was huge on, hey, they're making a weight class just for me. This is my weight class at 165 pounds. That died pretty quickly. He's now going to have to fight 170 pounds. And, he's going to get a killer in Fakhretdinov in this fight. This is a dangerous fight for the Motown Phenom in his return to the UFC. Look at this. 83% for Fakhretdinov, 17% for Kevin Lee. Yeah, I understand why. Look at Fakhretdinov, 21-2. I know he's only 2-0 in the UFC, and he's been dominant in his first couple of fights, but they haven't been electric by any stretch of the imagination. I know he knocks down Brian Battle in his last fight. He did it, I believe it was in the third round. Yeah, late in the fight, he knocks down Battle. But really, he's just been out-grinding guys in the UFC so far. His first 3 fights, again, just dominant wrestling performances. I mean, the Andreas Michailidis fight, just 13 minutes of control. This is a very tough fight for Kevin Lee, in a fight where potentially he could just be in a boring one, let's be honest, because Fakhretdinov can just hold him down, really. I know Kevin Lee's got good takedown defense, can't talk. But again, this isn't, I don't know how old Kevin Lee is now, 30 on the dot. Still though, Fakhretdinov's a guy who's undefeated in the UFC. His last loss is back in 2014. And he can strike too if he has to. Look at the Eric Spicely fight. This is the fight that I became familiar with Fakhretdinov, I'll be honest with you. It was Dana White looking for a fight. Eric Spicely, of course, former UFC fighter. He goes into UAE Warriors. It's a UAE Warriors Eagle FC co-promoted event. This is the same Dana White looking for a fight where it was on the Conor Poirier weekend, the second one. And Dana's like sitting next to Khabib, and he's like, hey, like, Conor and Poirier, this is the second highest fight in UFC history behind you and Conor. Just imagine what your fight with Conor could do again. And Khabib's like, I'm done, dude. But Fakhretdinov goes in there, beats Spicely, gets the contract with the UFC. He beats Michailidis, he beats Brian Battle. I'm just saying, he's very capable. He's a very capable striker. He's got a lot of power in his hands. You saw him drop Brian Battle, and Brian Battle is no bum. You look at his last fight, the big knockout victory in Charlotte over Gabe Green in 14 seconds, given it was a horrible game plan by Gabe Green in that fight. But Fakhretdinov grounds Brian Battle. He dominates Brian Battle. He knocks down Brian Battle. And now Kevin Lee, his opponent, who's good. But let's be honest, look at Kevin Lee as of late. Since 2018, since December of 2018, the guy's won 2 fights. It's the incredible knockout win over Gregor Gillespie. There's no denying that. UFC 244, the big overhand right, and the boom, the head kick puts Gregor Gillespie out cold. Gillespie has returned since, but he still doesn't fight. He beat Diego Ferreira, and we haven't seen him since 2021. For Kevin Lee, he runs into Charles Oliveira in that empty arena card in Brazil. Oliveira submits him in the third round. He loses to Daniel Rodriguez after that. Then he beats Diego Sanchez. But Diego Sanchez, the definition of washed up at that point. And now he gets Fakhretdinov. How does Kevin Lee win? I mean, because again, Lee, a good grappler who's got power. I don't think he's really able to put up too much or give Fakhretdinov too many worries on the ground off his back, if I'm being honest. I think on the feet, yeah, that's probably where Kevin Lee is going to have to win this fight, which isn't great when we're banking on Kevin Lee's striking to win him a fight. But I think that's probably what we're going to and that's what you kind of have for Kevin Lee in this one, because I don't think he's able to contend on the ground with Fakhretdinov. I think Fakhretdinov is better than him on the ground. It's just a matter of, can Kevin Lee keep this fight standing, and can Kevin Lee just work his boxing against Fakhretdinov and his kickboxing? I don't think so, because again, Hernat's good on the ground, or is good on the feet too. I think Fakhretdinov is just going to ground him, and I think he's not going to let him back up. So Hernat Fakhretdinov, we're going to be taking him to win this fight by unanimous decision over Kevin Lee. It's just an incredibly tough first fight in the UFC back for Lee. Again, he's not the guy he once was. I think Fakhretdinov is going to beat him by decision. I think he's going to give him a little bit of trouble on the feet, and I think Fakhretdinov is going to take him down for 15 minutes. Give me the favorite, Hanat Fakhretdinov at -230 to take down the +190 underdog in Kevin Lee. Next up, UFC debut for Nursultan Ruziboev. I probably butchered that, but coming out of Uzbekistan, he's 34-8-2, only 29 years of age, with all that pro experience. I mean, what? This will be his quick math. Hold on. Come on, 45th professional fight. There we go. Taking on Bruno Ferreira. And for Bruno Ferreira, man, I mean, this is kicking off the main card, which is crazy, by the way. Kevin Lee, think of these names that are on the undercard for a UFC Apex card. I mean, tell me again, this couldn't be in an arena. Kevin Lee's on the undercard. Yana Santos, 2 fighters who have fought for world championships and main evented pay-per-views. And also, Kutateladze, Alexander Romanov, Blagoy Ivanov. 3 fighters, by the way, on the undercard who have main evented UFC shows, 2 of which pay-per-views, 2 of which former UFC title challengers. Anyways, onto the main card, and this is a good one. Nursultan Ruziboev taking on Bruno Ferreira. For Ferreira, UFC debut, he's 9-0 in Brazil, knocks out Gregory Rodriguez, puts him out cold. First round knockout victory. Now, I was so excited for Ferreira versus Abdulrazak Alhassan. It was booked twice. Fight never happened. This weekend was supposed to be Abdulrazak Alhassan versus Bruno Ferreira, because those are 2 guys who just swing for the fences. You know the power Abdulrazak Alhassan's got. Bruno Ferreira's got power too. It was going to be an amazing fight. Unfortunately, it never happened. But now Ferreira gets on short notice. We've got Ruziboev here, and for Ruziboev, big winning streak. Again, the levels of competition, we just don't know where they're at, considering it's been a bunch of regional shows. He's fought everywhere, really. Fought in ACV a couple times, but again, a lot of experience for Ruziboev here. Coming out of Renzo Gracie in Philadelphia, 20 submission wins, 12 knockout victories. It's not a walk in the park for Bruno Ferreira at all. I mean, I think where Nursultan is going to want to take this fight, it's going to be on the ground. I don't think he's going to want to strike with Bruno Ferreira, as we've seen. You look at the knockout power Ferreira's got. You saw how he was able to put RoboCop down and put him out cold, and you saw what he's able to do on the Contender Series as well. So I don't think Nursultan's going to try to strike with Bruno Ferreira. I think he's going to obviously attempt to get a takedown. It's just a matter of if he can get it. Because for Bruno Ferreira in that Gregory Rodriguez fight, as I'm still on Hanat Fakhretdinov here, let's go to Bruno Ferreira. Again, fight doesn't last long. It's 4 minutes. Both guys kind of trade blow for blow. In that first round, boom, Ferreira puts him down, knocks him out. He does attempt a couple takedowns against Rodriguez. Doesn't get them, but it doesn't matter. He just outstrikes him and he puts him out with his power. It's so interesting because for Ruziboev, they bill him as a kickboxer and a wrestler. I don't think he wants to kickbox with Bruno Ferreira, even though I would be intrigued to see it. But again, most of the wins recently for Ruziboev have been by submission. But look at all these wins. On the big winning streak he's just put together since 2020, the start of 2021, since post-COVID, he hasn't gotten out of a first round. You look at his win, first fight again, where, what promotion is this? This is in Uzbekistan. He wins Kimura first round. Next up, he fights an open fighting championship. This is in Russia. He wins by first round submission. Then he goes to Brave. He wins by slam knockout in the first round. You've heard of Brave. It's a good promotion. Then he goes to open fight championship. I'm assuming this is back in Russia. Yes, it is. He goes in there. He wins by first round knockout. Then he gets a Kimura finish in ATF3, which is a fight promotion in Uzbekistan. Then he goes to Alash Pride, an Open FC co-promoted event in Kazakhstan. He goes out there and he wins by first round knockout. Then he goes to Octagon. He wins by first round knockout in Uzbekistan. And then next up, he has a fight in WEF Global, his last fight. But this was over a year ago in St. Petersburg, Russia. He does go out there. He does pick up the victory by armbar in the first round. But again, it's against guys 12-12. And this was over a year ago. We have not seen him in a while. I'm assuming that Ruziboev was supposed to be booked. I'm assuming he was supposed to be booked in the Contender Series. That makes sense that if he was, that's what he was looked at for. And now he's getting the shot in the UFC. His last fight was at middleweight, but that was at 196 pounds over in Russia. But again, he has fought at 185 pounds before. You look at his fight before that was at 185. And then, I believe he's normally 185 pounder. I don't know if this is mistaken or not. At 196 pounds, I'm not sure. I'll be honest, I don't watch WEF Global, but we'll see if this fight does get out the first round, who is still there, because Ferreira is, again, another guy who doesn't get out the first round much as well. It's a fight where, again, you're going to see violence and you're going to see chaos, and you are going to see it early. This is going to be one of Dana White's If you don't know, now you know, most likely, because again, you look at the results these two guys have put together. It's a very intriguing fight because it's not just that Nurlson has to take this fight down. He can strike as well. It's just that he probably should get this fight down. But on the feet, this is going to be a crazy fight because you know the power that Bruno Ferreira's got. You saw what he's able to do in the Contender Series and what he's able to do against Gregory Rodriguez. This is a very entertaining and interesting fight. And again, look at the height differential. Nurlson's 6'4", Bruno Ferreira's 5'10". I mean, really, so many different factors going into this fight. I'm going to go with the favorite in Bruno Ferreira like a lot of people are. I'm going to actually take him by first round knockout because, again, I don't see this fight really getting out of the first round. I think if it does get out the first, oh, hell's going to break loose. But I'm going to take the first round knockout victory for Bruno Ferreira. I think Ferreira is able to connect on Ruziboev, and I don't know if Ruziboev is able to take him down. And even if he does take him down, I don't know if he's able to keep him down. So I'm going to go with everything I trust in Bruno Ferreira to keep his winning streak going and remain undefeated. I think he's able to beat Nurlson Ruziboev, and especially Nurlson, who's taken this fight on short notice. I think Ferreira is able to capitalize, and I think Bruno Ferreira is able to pick up the victory. I'm going to take him to win this fight by first round knockout. It should be crazy, but you know the power that Ferreira strikes with. It's going to be fun, but give me the favorite in Bruno Ferreira to pick up the victory by first round knockout. Okay, our next fight here on the main card is Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Ismael Bonfim. Should be a good one because for Bonfim, man, 1-0 in the UFC, and it's the huge win over Terrence McKinney earlier this year in Brazil. Big flying knee knockout in the second round. It puts McKinney out cold. Dominant performance in that fight for Bonfim. He goes in there, he wins the first round against McKinney, and then he knocks him out with the flying knee in the second. One of the best knockouts of the year. I would say shout to Sadavu C in the PFL. Big knockout victory over Shane Mitchell. Go watch the PFL. The PFL is exciting, even though putting Shane Burgos in the playoffs is crazy. Even though I'm not against it, I think Burgos and Collard is going to be good, and I think, you know, Natan Scholl and Hoosh Manfio definitely didn't fight out there, but my goodness, replacing former champion Natan Scholl out of the playoffs with Shane Burgos is crazy. And I think we're probably going to see Burgos and OAM again in the finals. But anyways, for Bonfim, big knockout victory over Terrence McKinney. You know, the hands that Bonfim possesses. The one, you know, a little bit shaky in the ground, has been submitted 3 times, big in that last submission victory, or loss. It's all the way back in 2014 to Renato Moicano. It's been a while. And then another loss back in 2011 to one championship standout in Adriano Moraes. But for Bonfim, again, big winning streak right now. Really good hands. He's been going through guys on the feet and on the ground. Who would take on Benoit Saint-Denis, who has recovered since his dominant loss to start off his UFC career against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, loses that fight by unanimous decision. To fight that again, though, Benoit Saint-Denis showed a ton of heart in. He stays in the fight. He, you know, keeps on fighting in the third round. Still loses the fight, but still comes back, submits Nicholas Stoltze in his next fight by second round submission, second rear naked choke, then comes back and knocks out Gabriel Miranda in 2022. Booked against Joe Solecki, fight doesn't happen. Booked against Vince Pichel, fight doesn't happen. Now here he is against Ismael Bonfim. Again, Benoit Saint-Denis is a pretty sizable underdog in this fight. You saw in his last fight, though, you know, again, showing the hands, knocking down Miranda 3 times in the span of 5 minutes, essentially. Crazy results out of Benoit Saint-Denis in that fight. Probably his best striking performance to date. Now, let's be honest, though. Will he be able to strike with Ismael Bonfim? Likely not. Bonfim is probably going to get to him eventually on the feet if he does strike with him. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be interesting because Benoit Saint-Denis has got a, you know, just an absolutely crazy chin. It's hard to crack. But we'll see, because, again, a lot of people picking Bonfim by knockout. We'll see, though, because Benoit Saint-Denis is able to take a lot of damage. So I don't think Benoit Saint-Denis is going to want to strike with Bonfim. I think he's probably going to try to take him down. You know, contradictory, you know, it does contradict the Miranda fight, but I think that's what he's going to have to do if he's going to want to have his best shot at beating Ismael Bonfim, because, again, Bonfim's striking game is so good. His power, again, it shows where a lot of people are taking him to knock out the guy in Benoit Saint-Denis, who, let's be honest, is known for his chin and is known for the accumulation of damage he was able to take in that fight that he had against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Again, Bonfim coming in at minus 275, and for Benoit Saint-Denis plus 215. Bonfim's a big favorite for a good reason. You know, the striking game as a whole, a lot of power. He can mix it up a lot. Shows a lot of different angles. I think he's able to win, but I don't think he's able to get a knockout. It's in a card, too, where I've picked a ton of finishes. I'm not going to take a finish here. I'm going to take Ismael Bonfim to win this fight by decision. I don't think he's able to crack the chin of Benoit Saint-Denis. And I also think Saint-Denis is able to mix it up, too, with the grappling. I think he is able to make it, not just a striking fight, because if it is a striking fight, I think it's going to be tough for Benoit Saint-Denis to survive and obviously win. So again, his best pathway to victory is going to be on the ground, and I think he's going to take the fight down at some point in the fight. I just think that Bonfim's striking game is going to do enough for him, and I think his capability of not getting submitted or not be able to, remain stuck on his back for a long extended period of time in this fight is going to pay off too. I think Bonfim wins. I think he'll get it done by a unanimous decision. On to our next one in the flyweight division. We have got Ariane Lipski taking on Melissa Gatto in this fight. For Lipski, she is the underdog. Gatto will be the favorite. Melissa Gatto so far 8-1-2 professionally. Her last fight would be that loss, her first loss in professional MMA to Tracy Cortez, or actually her first loss in the UFC to Tracy Cortez, or actually no, in professional MMA, because the two in her record are draws. 2-0 so far, or 2-1 in the UFC, 2-0 before the Cortez lost. It's an interesting fight because Gatto comes in here, I believe she was the favorite, but Cortez kind of just beats her when it mattered. Cortez out-wrestled her. She wins it 2-1. I believe I took Gatto in this fight because, again, Melissa Gatto looked good. The Sijara Eubanks fight, the TKO finish, the body kick lands perfectly on Sijara Eubanks. And the Victoria Leonardo fight, I mean, it's a doctor stoppage. She picks up the victory. It is what it is, I guess, in the Leonardo fight. Leonardo breaks her arm. Leonardo hasn't been the best UFC fighter. She lost her last fight to Natalia Silva after beating Mandy Bohm. And for Mandy Bohm, she's just a low-level UFC fighter as well, even though she beat Ji-Yeon Kim in a fight that I don't think she won, but that's besides the point. Gatto wins 2 fights. Now she gets Lipski. For Ariane Lipski, 15-8 professionally. Her last fight is a win over JJ Aldridge. It's a fight that I don't think I picked her to win. I think I picked JJ Aldridge. Yeah, I picked Aldridge to win that fight. I haven't gotten a Lipski fight right in a while. You got to go back to when she fought Montana De La Rosa. It's the last fight that I picked correctly in a Lipski fight. But known for her kickboxing, she was really good over at KSW. She was the KSW flyweight champion. She retains the championship in her last fight over there against another UFC fighter in Silvana Gomez Juarez, who I don't know if it's still in the UFC after her loss to Carolina. But anyways, she comes in the UFC, loses to Joanne Wood, drops one to Molly McCann, beats Ismael De Pauda, beats Luana Carolina, loses to Antonina Shevchenko, loses to Montana De La Rosa, beats Mandy Bohm, loses to Priscilla Cachoeira, beats JJ Aldridge. For Lipski, we've seen her lose on the feet before. We've seen her lose on the ground. She is a good grappler, but that's only when she's on top. When she gets taken down, it is trouble for Ariane Lipski. However, Melissa Gatto is a fighter who will likely keep this fight standing. I know she wrestled some with Tracy Cortez, but she got beat on the ground in the Tracy Cortez fight. I think you'll probably see striking out of Gatto in this fight, and you'll probably see striking out of Lipski, or you'll see the combination of striking and grappling out of Lipski. Lipski's always mixing things up, and again, in a fight where Lipski seems like she is the better grappler, that's where she is going to go, and she might see some success in that sense. When you look at the odds for this fight, you got Ariane Lipski at plus 135, Melissa Gatto coming back at you at minus 165. People are taking Melissa Gatto by decision a lot in this fight, which makes sense. You probably won't see a finish in this fight. Again, though, I wouldn't underestimate Ariane Lipski in this fight either. I think Lipski is talented both on the feet and on the ground. She just hasn't really put it all together so far in her career, even though, yes, she is coming off the win over JJ Aldridge, where she really put it together in that fight. 101-49 was the significant strike count. Her fight before that, she drops it to Cachoeira. She just gets knocked down. And again, the fight against Mandy Bohm, she really puts it together. However, again, Mandy Bohm's not the best UFC fighter. I believe that was Bohm's first UFC fight. Yeah, it was. A lot of people were high on Lipski after that win, and then she goes straight into a fight with Cachoeira, and she loses. For Priscilla Cachoeira, I mean, up and down a bunch. We'll see what she does against Joanne Wood, I guess, in Utah in July. I'm going to be taking the favorite here, though, on Melissa Gatto. I think Gatto's able to win this fight in the feet. I think she's able to outstrike Ariane Lipski, and I don't think, again, similar to what I was talking about with Ismael Bonfim, I don't think Gatto's going to get stuck on her back that much. I think, yeah, maybe Lipski does get a takedown, maybe Lipski does get her down, but I think Gatto's able to get back up, and I think Gatto's able to fight that off. I think Melissa Gatto, again, all around, is the better fighter. I think she's a better striker. And I think she'll beat Ariane Lipski in this fight. So give me Gatto to win by decision. Next up, big-time fight. Michael Morales returns against Max Griffin. Morales undefeated at 14-0. He'll now get Max Payne Griffin, a guy who's coming off a win over Tim Means by split decision in the Apex last year. Morales, though, undefeated at 14-0. A huge matchup here on the main card for Michael Morales, 2-0 so far in the UFC. Coming off his last win, it is a knockout finish in the third round over Adam Fugit. Again, for Fugit, this is a guy who has not been great in the UFC. He beat Solomon Renfro to get his shot in the promotion. Oh, by the way, Solomon Renfro comes into the PFL, picks up a huge second-round knockout finish over Gerard Al-Sawali. On short notice, by the way, too. But Fugit comes into the UFC, fights Michael Morales. He loses. He beats Yusaku Kinoshita by first-round TKO in his next fight. And then he drops his next fight to Mike Malott, of course, in Canada in the second round by submission. It's obviously the fight that a lot of people are coining Mike Malott to be the next Canadian big star in the UFC. We'll see how that goes, but Malott with another big victory. He goes in there, he beats Adam Fugit. However, Michael Morales' last fight was a win over Adam Fugit. He knocks him out in the third round. For Morales, undefeated professionally, he went into the Contender Series. He won by unanimous decision. It's a big win. Comes in now to that fight in Anaheim against Trevin Giles on a main card of a pay-per-view. He knocks out Giles in the first round, goes in there and puts him away early, then gets the Fugit fight. Really outstrikes Fugit, but also shows in that fight that he can take a punch, because Fugit really throws back at him in that first round. It was not the dominant performance for Michael Morales that we were expecting in the first and second rounds. Fugit remains really close with him. It's a good back and forth fight, and in the third round, though, Morales comes in there, really sits back on his punches, puts down Fugit twice, and eventually does get that finish in that third round. Now a huge step up in competition, though, because he gets Max Payne Griffin. You look at Tapology real quick. Morales 89% going with him, 11% for Griffin. You look at the odds, minus 220 for Morales, plus 180 for Griffin. But for Max Griffin, again, coming off that win his last fight over Tim Means, this is a guy who's won 4 out of his last 5 fights since 2020. You look at the Means win, it's a good win by split decision. Back and forth fight. Griffin does get the knockdown in the first round. It wins him that first. The second goes to Means, but the third round, it's the grappling and the wrestling out of Max Payne Griffin that does win him that fight. And then before that, for him, he runs into Neil Magny, loses a close fight by split decision, but Neil Magny looking like, you know, he just gets into split decisions all the time now, beats Max Griffin. I mean, I know he's gotten finishes in between, but I'm just primarily talking about the Phil Rowe win, which is a good one for Magny. Glad he picked up the victory. I picked him to win. Keeps on adding on to his records in the promotion. But for Griffin, loses to Magny. And then before that, that was the 3-fight winning streak. Ramiz Brahimaj elbows his ear off, basically. The Son Kanon win, knocks him out in the first round, and then gets a unanimous decision victory in the retirement fight of the Natural Born Killer in Carlos Condit. But, for Griffin, again, 4 out of 5 wins. This is a huge step up for Morales, and it's a tough fight for Morales, because if you thought, okay, well, Morales struggled a little bit with Adam Fugit, he's going to struggle some with Max Griffin, too, because Max Griffin is a better version of Adam Fugit. He is going to give Morales some trouble on the feet, and Griffin throws hard, too. So Max Griffin is going to give him some big shots. This is a good fight. It's a really good fight to test Morales to see if he's really ready to make that next jump, because I'm not going to say Max Griffin is necessarily he's not a gatekeeper, but he's a really big test. He's won 4 out of his last 5. Again, since losing the Morono and Oliveira fights back-to-back, it's a good test for Morales. I mean, likely, again, Max Griffin, he took down Tim Means 3 times. You might see him try to wrestle Morales a little bit here, too. Again, Fugit tried to take down Morales a lot. He tried 8 times, was only successful once. I really don't think the wrestling is going to play too much of a factor in this fight, because I think Morales is able to keep it standing against Max Griffin. So if Griffin does look for a takedown, I think Morales is able to keep it on the feet. But it's a fun fight, man. It's a really fun fight. Morales is a long 170-pound fighter. His striking is crisp. Again, big favorite in this fight, but I would not count out Max Griffin at all. We would have liked to see Morales take on a guy in Fakhretdinov at the end of 2022. Morales got hurt, couldn't make that fight, and now they've booked Fakhretdinov against Kevin Lee, and of course Morales is now in this fight with Griffin. But I'm so pumped for this fight, because Max Griffin, he can get in tight, he can throw big shots, he can throw big power. Can Morales keep his distance, and can Morales, like a sniper, stay on the outside and really connect like he did again in the Trevin Giles fight where he knocked him out in the first round. Morales is a good counter puncher. We'll see if he's able to do that on the big shots that Griffin will throw. I'm going to take Michael Morales. I think he'll get the job done. Do I think he gets a knockout? That's the question. I think he will. I'm going to say second round knockout finish for Michael Morales. I think, again, Griffin's going to throw big at some point in this fight. He's going to try to close the distance. Morales is going to catch him on the way in. And again, only 24 years old, Michael Morales. He goes in there, he picks up the victory. The sky's the limit for this guy. He could be, with the win here, 15-0, 3 wins in the UFC, 3-0 in the UFC. Where does he go next at only 24 years old? We don't know. But I think Michael Morales is able to pick up the victory. I think he beats Max Griffin. I think he gets it done by second round knockout. On to the co-main event. Damir Ismagulov gets the co-main event spot against Grant Dawson. What a fight here. And for Ismagulov, again, his last win is a win over Kutateladze. Kutateladze is on the first fight of this card. Damir Ismagulov's in the co-main event. It's a huge spot for him in the lightweight division. Again, Ismagulov is coming off that loss to Arman Tsarukyan, and I know people might be down on Arman Tsarukyan right now. They might be down on him because, again, it took him actually a lot of rounds to beat Joaquin Silva in his last fight. And again, I did not watch that fight live. I was actually at Disneyland, but Tsarukyan goes in there, he wins it in the third round. Sure, I just bring that up because Ismagulov was Ismagulov's last fight. It was in 2022. It was on that Cannonier and Strickland card. It was the co-main event. Tsarukyan wins it by decision. In that fight, Ismagulov just gets grounded. There's not much he can do in that fight because Tsarukyan, again, just shows off his wrestling game. Not much Ismagulov can do. He can't really get his striking off because as soon as he tries, he's already on his back because Tsarukyan's already pushing forward and Tsarukyan's already looking for the takedown. But Ismagulov's last win is the win over Kutateladze that we talked about at the very beginning of this video. We talk about it again. Ismagulov again beats him to the punch. I think it's a very close fight. I would make the case. I think Guram won rounds 1 and 3. But it's a good fight. Ismagulov shows off the striking. It's a good win for him. He cannot get a takedown in that fight. He goes 0 for 6. Guram goes 1 for 7. But before that, for Ismagulov, he goes out there. He beats Rafael Alves by unanimous decision. Alves, who the UFC dropped, surprisingly, I know. Again, couldn't make weight in his first fight. His record isn't great. I know he's 1 and 3 in the UFC, but I really would like to see Alves get another shot in the promotion. Hey, call on the PFL. I think that'd be nice to get Alves over there, or hell, maybe even Bellator. But Ismagulov beats Rafael Alves. He gets dropped by Alves, but that's what's going to happen in a crazy style of fight that Alves does fight. Again, after that, Ismagulov took him down. Ismagulov kept him down in that first round. That's really how the fight kind of went after that, even though Ismagulov had a strike with them. But Ismagulov's good. He's got a good striking game. His wrestling game is solid as well, as you saw in the Thiago Moises fight. Again, the Joel Alvarez fight, not much grappling going on in that fight. It's just all striking out of Damir. But again, Damir Ismagulov, if he needs to get it done on the feet, he can get it done on the feet. If he needs to get it done on the ground, he can do it down there as well. He will be getting Grant Dawson in this fight, and for Dawson, and back-to-back wins after that majority draw to Ricky Glenn. And that Ricky Glenn fight, man, Dawson does not look good at the end of that third round. He really does not. He was on his way to win the fight, but really a bad third round pushes that fight to be a majority draw. He fights Jared Gordon before that. He submits Jared Gordon in the third round, and then he goes in his next fight. He beats Mark Madsen. He submits Madsen in the third round, taking the O away from Mark Madsen. We have not seen Mark Madsen since, but Grant Dawson goes out there, and he picks up the win by third round submission. I mean, likely that's where Dawson's going to go in this fight. Dawson's going to try to take Ismagulov down, but does he want... I mean, I know he's going to have to, but Ismagulov's pretty good on there as well. But if you're Grant Dawson, you look at what Arman Tsarukyan was able to do against Damir Ismagulov, and you're hoping you can replicate that. That's kind of how this is going to go. Is Grant Dawson the wrestler Arman Tsarukyan is? Is he the fighter Arman Tsarukyan is? He's not. But that's really his only hope of winning this fight, I think. Because on the feet, obviously, I don't think... I mean... Again, Dawson's not horrible up there, but I think Ismagulov is slightly better. Or I think he's better. And then on the ground, again, I like Ismagulov down there too. It's just a matter of, can Dawson overpower Damir Ismagulov once this fight gets on the ground? Can he overpower him, and can he, can he push him down to the ground, basically? Topology odds are close, I guess. 68% Damir Ismagulov, 32% for Grant Dawson. You look at the odds for this fight, Ismagulov minus 135, at Dawson at plus 110. That's fair, I think. I think those are good odds for this fight because... Again, Ismagulov coming off that loss to Tsarukyan where he does get beat on the ground. And for Dawson, again, this is a guy on a winning streak as of late. He has not lost yet in the UFC. He's 7-0-1, even though, again, he did lose some stock in the Ricky Glenn fight. But this is a guy who's a really good wrestler. He drops really good hammer fists, as you saw in the Leonardo Santos fight. He's got good top pressure. Can he get this fight down? And can he execute on the ground against Damir Ismagulov? I don't know if he can. I really don't know. Because Ismagulov is solid defensively. This is a guy, again, who's got a good striking game as well, and he can hurt you on the feet, and he can touch you on the feet as well. I'm going to take the favorite in Damir Ismagulov. I think Ismagulov's able to win this fight by decision. At minus 155, Kazakhstan zone, I think he's able to win. You got Dawson, again, who's the underdog, who will look to wrestle. He will look to put Ismagulov in some spots in the ground, but I think Ismagulov, again, is able to remain off those. I think he's able to keep it standing. I think Ismagulov's able to outstrike him, and even on the ground, I think Ismagulov is able to hold his own. I think Ismagulov is able to have a lot of success down there as well. Again, I like Dawson, but I think Ismagulov is slightly better. I think Ismagulov gives Dawson his first loss in the UFC. Give me the favorite, Damir Ismagulov, to win this fight. He's going to get it done by unanimous decision. Okay, On to the main event of the evening. In the middleweight division, we have got Sean Strickland versus Abus Magomedov. Another fight at 185 pounds. We will talk about the state of the middleweight division after this fight, or after I give my prediction. But Abus Magomedov, his second fight in the UFC, gets a crazy step up. He goes from fighting Dustin Stoltzfus, I believe on the undercard. I don't know when this was on this card. It was a prelim to that UFC Paris card. He picks up the win in the first round by knockout in 20 seconds against a guy in Dustin Stoltzfus who's no longer in the UFC. I don't think his guy went 1-4 in the UFC. And now he gets Sean Strickland. It's a huge step up, considering he was booking his Jaromir Sharp fight doesn't happen. He was booking his Makhmud Muradov fight doesn't happen. And now they put him in a main event spot against Sean Strickland, a guy who is 13-5 in the UFC, who's coming off a main event win by decision, given it was at 205 pounds against Nasruddin Imavov, but he beats Imavov by unanimous decision. Now he gets Abus Magomedov. And for Magomedov, there's not much to speak of his, at least his UFC career, because again, it's a front kick and it's a knockout in 20 seconds. He outstrikes Dustin Stoltzfus 7-0, and he wins the fight by first round knockout. It's a good one for Abus Magomedov. That's really all I have to say for his UFC debut. Now, watched Magomedov some in the PFL. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was not actively watching the PFL in 2018, but I've since gone back and I've rewatched some PFL 2018, at least what I can find on YouTube. But I watched, he beat Sadibou by unanimous decision. Sadibou, by the way, is a guy who, again, he's reinvented himself, Sadibou. He's now back in the playoffs yet again. Now, do I think he's going to win the championship again at 185 pounds for the PFL this season? I don't think so. I think he's going to get past Carlos Leal. Do I think he's going to beat Magomed Karamov, who likely, I think, will beat Magomed Umlatov? I don't think so. I think Magomed Karamov will likely beat Sadibou in their rematch of 2021. But we'll see, because they fought in the playoffs in 2021. I think it's likely what's going to be the fight again, even though Sadibou already beat Carlos Leal in 2022 in the playoffs. That's besides the point. I'm really in the PFL. If you want to watch PFL, it's on the channel, and I'll be talking about the playoffs when it does happen in early August. But Magomedov goes into the 2018 season. He's the number 1 seed because he gets 2 first-round finishes in the regular season. That's when the PFL, I believe, it was 8-man brackets in the playoffs. It's a draw because it was a 2-round fight, his first one, but then he gets on to the next round. He beats Sadibou by unanimous decision. Then he runs into the championship fight. New Year's Eve, he is a huge favorite over Lewis Taylor. -330. He gets knocked down in 33 seconds. Taylor wins the $1 million. Taylor becomes a world champion, and Taylor doesn't fight ever since. He was booked again in 2019 against Chris Curtis. He's not cleared. He was supposed to fight Shlemenko in 2019 as well. It doesn't happen. Taylor rides off in the sunset, a millionaire. He's now 44 years old. At the time, he was, 39. Taylor goes in there and he wins the fight. He wins the championship over Abus Magomedov, and that's kind of the highest point of Magomedov's career, at least what a lot of people know Abus Magomedov for. He's the guy who got knocked out in the championship fight the first season in 2018 for the PFL by Lewis Taylor. And he was a big favorite. He was the 1 seed, and he gets knocked out cold in 33 seconds of a 5-round fight. I mean, early PFL days are interesting. I think they are. Because, again, Magomed Karamov and Ray Cooper III in the main event of that card. Magomed Karamov is trying to win another championship at 170 pounds this year. Felipe Lins wins that year. Sean O'Connell, their commentator, wins on that card. Kayla Harrison, I believe, made her PFL debut on this card. Natan Schultz, who got kicked out the playoffs this season because he fought Hoosh Manfio or sparred Hoosh Manfio, wins on this card. Again, Lewis Taylor is the first fight he beats Abus Magomedov. And by the way, Lance the Party Palmer wins his first 145-pound championship over there. But yeah, Magomedov loses to Lewis Taylor. He comes back, though. He wins a fight on EMC by Kimura in the first round against a guy who was making his professional debut. It was a pro boxer. And then he wins on KSW after that against guys 12-0. And then is signed to the UFC. Beats Dustin Stoltzfus. Now here he is in the UFC against Sean Strickland in a main event in his second fight. Strickland, here he is. He's good. Strickland's a good fighter. Will Strickland knock anybody out? Likely not. He knocked out Brendan Allen. I believe that's his last knockout victory. Now Brendan Allen, is trying to make his case for a world championship opportunity. He says he has a good chin. He's the only guy that's been finished recently by Strickland. Now, I like how Brendan Allen's really winning fights. He's still, 27? I believe John Anik said he still hasn't even hit his prime, which... Sure. Was that Anik? I don't know who that was, but still someone said that. Allen's on a run right now. Good for him. He wants Jared Cannonier. He does not want Jared Cannonier. Cannonier wiped the floor with him. But anyways, Strickland on his big winning streak, I mean, it starts after the motorcycle accident, basically. He comes in, beats Jack Marshman, beats Brendan Allen, beats Gatto, beats Uriah Hall in the main event, beats Jack Hermanson in the main event, then runs into Alex Pereira, gets knocked out by Alex Pereira. I called that fight, by the way, since Strickland was going to be too stupid to wrestle. He didn't wrestle. Then lose to Jared Cannonier by split decision in a very close fight. Beats Nasruddin Imavov. Here we are. He's going to be taking on Abus Magomedov. The power advantage goes to Abus Magomedov. Magomedov's got the power advantage. And I think if Magomedov's going to win this fight, he's going to have to knock Strickland out. Because I don't think he's going to be able to strike back and forth Strickland on the feet for 25 minutes. Because that's where Strickland specializes in. That's where Strickland wants fights. That's where Strickland's comfortable in. He's comfortable in an environment. And let's be honest, I think Strickland's very comfortable in the Apex too, in an environment where he can talk, his opponents can hear him talk, the commentators can hear him talk, the 100 fans can hear him talk, and the fans watching, you know, on ESPN can hear as well. Strickland's going to get in Magomedov's face. He is going to talk to Magomedov. Even though the German Magomedov will likely not be able to understand what Strickland's telling him, Strickland will probably do that just because that's the element that Strickland fights in. Strickland's an odd guy, let's be honest. He is, but he's a good fighter, and he can really put together combinations, and he can really get things going on the feet. And oh, by the way, Sean Strickland's been saying for the longest time that, let's just say it, he's been saying, oh, I fought like a bitch, I'm fighting like a pussy, I'm not getting finishes. Well, he's been saying that for a while, and after every fight that he has, he says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not, you know, I need to start getting finishes. Said that at the end of the Imavov fight. If he wins this fight, I don't think it's going to be by finish. I just don't think it is. It's just not how Strickland fights. Strickland fights like he fights in the gym, and it's entertaining, but he doesn't get knockouts, really. You know, we've got Strickland and Magomedov. Don't get me wrong. It's a good fight. It's a really good fight, because we will see how Strickland's able to deal with the striking of Abus Magomedov, a guy who's got a lot of power. But I think Strickland's able to box him up. I think he is. I think Strickland's able to get in his face, and I think Strickland, as long as he doesn't just drop his guard and get caught with a big shot like Alex Pereira hit him with, I think he's able to go out there, and I think he's going to make this look easy against Abus Magomedov. I'm not saying Magomedov shouldn't be in this spot, but I think, again, Strickland's going to show why there's slightly levels to this game. Sean Strickland's going to go out there and win. I think he's going to get it done by unanimous decision. I'm going to say 50-45 for Sean Strickland. I think Strickland's going to make this clear that this is kind of a mismatch for him. I think Strickland's going to show that he is the much better striker in this fight. I think he's going to prove why he is the best, much better fighter as a whole in this one. Probably not going to see any grappling in this one. It's going to be a kickboxing fight. I think Magomedov is going to look for his big shots. I don't think he's going to get it. Strickland should be able to stay up the way of the big power shots that Abus throws. And yeah, give me the favorite, Sean Strickland, to get it done. Strickland wins it by unanimous decision. I'm going to lock in all my picks. We are now going to look at the UFC's website, and we're going to look at the top of the middleweight division because it does get interesting from here. So let's look at it. We have got, of course, first, the champion Israel Adesanya. He is likely to fight, and we talked about this again at the end of the Cannonier-Vettori card, but things have changed since then. I thought Vettori was going to beat Jared Cannonier. It did not happen. So Israel Adesanya is probably going to fight the winner of Robert Whittaker, Dricus du Plessis. Okay, likely that'll be Robert Whittaker. We'll talk about that card next week on the Yair versus Volkanovski card. Really excited for du Plessis and Whittaker. I think it's going to be Rob, though. So Rob will likely fight Israel Adesanya. Pereira's going up to 205. He's going to be fighting Jan Blachowicz. No. Who is he? Wait, he's fighting... Yeah, he's fighting Jan. Yeah, he is fighting Jan Blachowicz. Cannonier's kind of waiting. I don't think he's going to get a title shot. I think, honestly, Jared Cannonier could fight the winner of this fight. I know it's a rematch for Strickland, but it's you're kind of at this point in the weight class we're going to have to start making rematches. Now, think of Paulo Costa. Maybe, actually, no. Cannonier probably fights the winner of Costa and Nurullo Aliyev. I think that's how that kind of goes. The winner of Strickland and Magomedov, I think maybe fights the loser of Whittaker du Plessis. Maybe. I think if Abus Magomedov wins this fight, then maybe he gets Cannonier. But if Strickland wins, I think then he gets the loser of du Plessis Whittaker. And then Jared would have to fight the winner of Costa versus Nurullo Aliyev, because then that could be a title eliminator, and that's what Cannonier wants. I mean, I know it's what every fighter wants, but I think that's what makes sense. I think. I'm going to take Sean Strickland, though. I'm taking Strickland to win this fight. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. So, that is it here for our predictions, folks. Here with UFC Vegas, who knows? It's been in a million, 125 in the Apex, probably more. But yeah, we're going to go with Sean Strickland to win the main event over Abus Magomedov. So, folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC Fight Night predictions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We'll be back next week for International Fight Week. The main event, my goodness, UFC 290, Rodriguez Volkanovski. Look at the card. It is crazy. Volkanovski Rodriguez, Moreno Pantoja 3, Nickel Gore, Whitaker Duplessis, Hooker Jalen Turner, the retirement fight of Robbie Lawler, Jack Della Maddalena gets Sean Brady. What a card coming at you next week from Las Vegas, Nevada. But for now, we have got Sean Strickland to win in the main event over Abus Magomedov from the UFC Apex by unanimous decision. So folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Give folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba forever.